on both sides of the auditorium, and at the end of the auditorium, those doors that you walk through. But what I really want to say here now is to express an enormous amount of gratitude. Gratitude to Kathy Mull, our director, who has put an incredible amount of energy, time, and heart into creating a production of the disparate voices of survivors of the Upper Valley. She took time out of her busy New York City schedule, where she's presently the head director at Unedited on Broadway, to come and spend time with us. I also want to express an enormous gratitude to the many writers who participated in this project, and to the readers and the performers who are here tonight. The people who are here tonight have put a great amount of energy into the work, and those of us who have been part of it have witnessed an absolutely amazing amount of strength and courage. It was an inspiration to all who were involved. And I just wanted to note that some of the readers who are going to be reading tonight are not the writers of the pieces that they're reading, but that everyone here shares the same commitment to giving voice to survivors and to honoring those experiences. This event is really about the power of voice and the power of listening. And so I want to also thank you for being here, because if you weren't here, then you would only have half of the equation. So thank you for coming out tonight and listening. The voices of victims and survivors of domestic and sexual violence are often not heard. Sometimes that is intentional. Sometimes the perpetrators say things like, if you tell, then it will be worse. Sometimes there will be a defense attorney who will do absolutely everything in their power to make sure that the reality of the violence does not enter the courtroom, because they know that it would have a negative impact on their client. And sometimes it's less intentional. Sometimes it's us, it's our friends, family, who say things like, gee, do you think that really happened? Or he seems like such a nice guy. Not him. And that silences the survivor and makes them feel like, gee, I can't really tell this person about the reality of what happened behind closed doors, because I know I'm not going to be believed. Listening to these stories can sometimes be hard. It means that we have to accept the reality that these things happen in our world and that they can happen to us. But listening and believing is vital. It's essential so that we can comprehend the realities of the violence. It's essential so that we understand the dynamics of sexual violence and domestic violence. And it's essential because in order to understand it, we have to know what's really happening. And in order to end domestic and sexual violence, we have to have a real understanding of what it is to begin with. So sit back and take it all in, and know that you're doing something when you simply listen to the strong and courageous, unedited voices here tonight. Thank you.
Sound of one who made I sob. My heart is shattered. My hope to be loved is dead. I am alone. I am afraid. No one can understand my pain. No one would bother to try. I'm not worth it. I am married to a man who does not love me, who doesn't even like me. A man who chose to be with me because I can be controlled. He is always right because I am always wrong. He is always smart because I am always stupid. He looks at me with disdain, distaste, and scorn. I feel lost, a child's sense of being lost, with nowhere to go and no idea of how to get unlost. I cry without inhibition. My sobs echo in the darkness. Tears run down my face into the dusty carpet. Isolated, hopeless, and filled with aching self-loathing, I shake with sadness. I cry for the children I never had, and for the child I once was. I cry for the hope I had of being loved, now dead. I cry for the comfort never given by the person I trust most. He holds a mirror up to me. His mirror is filled with reflection of my flaws, weaknesses, and ugliness. How can it be there are so many? I am breathless with shame and horror of how horrible I am. I cry. I am alone. Because I am not loved, I do not exist.
I am a survivor.
Physical, sexual,
Emotional.
psychological abuse.
I was raped and no one believed me.
Rape is the worst crime someone can experience as a victim.
I was a victim of abuse
I was sexually assaulted.
by my stepfather.
My biological mother physically abused me. I thought he was my best friend.
I grew up knowing to keep my mouth shut.
It leaves the victim violated.
Humiliated, damaged, scarred.
What happened at home stayed at home.
All I wanted to tell him was how much it affected me.
Knocking one of my teeth out, ridiculing me, locking me in the basement with no food or water for up to 3 days at a time.
But they didn't allow me to say anything.
Abuse followed me into my high school years when my boyfriend tried to rape me. Again, my mouth was shut. It all started innocently, sarcastic remarks about my looks, clothes, job, friends. I lost myself little by little. I had no self-esteem. Depression set in like a ton of bricks.
My biological father began sexually abusing me when I was very little. He brought a friend who sexually abused me when I was about 5 years old. I remember my father saying, "This is the girl I was telling you about. She will do anything that I tell her to do."
Anxiety, hypertension, panic attacks all became a daily battle for me. I became afraid to be the real me. Deep down, I knew I was a good person.
I did try to tell my mother. She didn't believe me. That was the first time I was locked in the basement.
I went to my counselor who told me that I should report it. So I did.
I wrote a letter to a woman I babysat for. I wrote it to find out if what was happening to me was normal. Some people might think that that's odd, but when it's all you've ever experienced, it seems to make sense. After she read the letter, I was taken to a hospital. I became a foster child until the age of 18.
Sometimes a victim is lucky enough to get the support and help they need to heal. Many other times people don't.
I remember telling my therapist that I felt like a whipped puppy dog. Being raped by my husband left scars on my leg from his toenails holding me down. My therapist called it marital rape and said that it should be reported. But this was the man I thought loved me. My fear of a failed marriage helped me minimize the desperation inside.
The cops are saying I am lying. I got a rape kit. I'm not lying.
When I was in foster care, my father would randomly show up and sexually abuse me. I truly felt I was bad and that I deserved everything. I had no way out.
I've been given this chance to talk. What I really want to say is how much this crime has impacted my life.
I was not lucky enough to get help.
My husband seemed so charming. He was a strong man, and my hopes were that he would protect me. Boy, was I wrong. The abuse was worse than ever. He always gave me a story to tell for the broken bones and the bruises and the black eyes. I believed I loved him. I believed he loved me. I believed that every day he would change. All my life, I had been taught to do everything I was told to do, and if I did, I would stay out of trouble. So I tried harder and harder to do what he told me, to be good and to obey. He controlled everything. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I had to call him when I left work so he could time me to make sure I wouldn't stop anywhere along the way. He slept with a gun under his pillow. He even controlled what I ate. He never allowed me to weigh more than 99 pounds. I was beaten severely once for sneaking a ring ding.
I just blacked out and don't remember the details. The cops never had the kids sent to the lab, and they gave me my clothes back.
It makes me question all relationships.
I became silent. I internalized my pain and suffering.
I had 2 beautiful daughters by him. I remember when they were very little, he would hold a gun to their head and he would say to me, "If you ever say anything, I will kill both of them. I will make you watch and I will kill you too."
My hope is that others obtain the help and support they need to not be controlled by their attackers and by their bad experiences.
Going to work kept getting more difficult as the physical abuse took over. Makeup wasn't covering the black eyes. Wearing long sleeves in the dead of summer looked out of place and foolish. The silly excuses I came up with now seemed so ridiculous, yet no one seemed to question it.
One day I stopped at a car garage. The owner looked at me and said, "I've seen enough black eyes and bruises. I'm calling the cops." I was terrified. The cops arrested my husband and charged him with assault, but I was too scared to tell them anything.
You hurt me.
Because I hadn't known anything else, a big part of me really believed that I was wrong, that I was a bad person.
The staff at Wise took my hand. They do believe me.
Finally, being forced to hold a gun to my head with my young son in the other room, I had the stamina to walk out with my son.
I've never trusted anyone to get rape kits done or rely on the local law enforcement to help with my years-long stalker and many times rapist.
On the evening before his release from prison, I fled with 3 suitcases. Wise, my therapist, and some friends helped me.
I left the home that I had helped build and pay off, but I had my life back. The problem hadn't been me after all.
Rather than suffering through the darkness alone, we can share our stories. It helps us to heal and helps others. We are not alone.
There was nothing easy about this journey. It has been very tough.
Abuse is real. It hurts. It can destroy you.
Because I had to be quiet for so many years, it feels very good to speak out. I know I am a stronger person today.
If I learned anything,
What you did was not okay.
I'm not going to the cops about anything anymore.
It isn't our fault that this happened.
Help stop the violence. Please find the strength and courage.
Let your voice be heard.
It's been a long time now. I have details, but the details feel like shattered glass. So here I share what I have written, poems that assemble the broken glass in some way. It served me to write them, speaking as it were my experience. The whole mess started out simply enough. I tried to train myself to be good, to be obedient in order to deserve love, behaving. And for a long time, it worked. I had an enviable life. It all looked good on the outside. But no life examined from the outside is what it seems. Mine certainly wasn't. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make it so. Couldn't figure out the system that I lived in where the rules changed according to someone else's whims and needs and desires. And before too long, I felt like there was no way out. He makes me want to kill myself. I am the mouse, frightened off with a threat. In a heartbeat, the cleaver is brought down in my path. I turn, try another direction. Once more, the slam of the cleaver. I scurry away, scratching hard to find freedom. The flash and bam of the cleaver. I race, blocked. I turn, bam, crash of the cleaver brought down by a certain hand. Again and again and again. I run, worrying, wondering if I will never, ever find a way. I tire. The hand grabs my tail. I squeal, scrabble, scramble, running nowhere. Exhausted and nearly spent, my feet slow until finally I lie quiet, my body rocking back and forth with each heaving pant. Lifted, the hand dangles me into a palm. I feel hot, laughing breath on my fur. I am petted with soft strokes as I tremble and squeak, afraid and pleading. The gentleness continues, and for a time the palm is still. I settle and curl into its folds. Panic subsides until the hand shifts, until it all happens again. And yet, there was a way out. In the beginning, I did it for my children, because however broken and useless I felt, I knew they needed me and I loved them with all my heart. So I tried. And like the little mouse, I crept, slowly finding a way to be safe, to do what I needed to do, and to be okay enough. I began with a series of firsts. My heart bangs into my neck and ears. I read directions. I read them again. Soon the children will be up and I want to please. I have been told by shadows past that I'm no good. I read directions. Flour, egg, milk, baking soda, sugar, vanilla. Can I do it? I hear, Jesus, just let me do it. I hear, I'm no good. I stop. I read directions. I worry. I stop. I pick up the spoon. I worry. I say, mix the dry. I shush the shadow's shadow for the first time. I read directions. I worry, but mix in the milk and egg. And one by one, I make imperfect pancakes. One by one. One by one.
My Bella, my beautiful, magical Bella. She is a short-haired pointer. She is a gentle yet powerfully brave being. She is my steady mate, my always there with a gentle stare, and knowing when I'm in pain, she sits with me. My Bella was on the receiving end of his violence days before he almost took my life. It was one of those mornings he woke me up raging on the phone. God knows what business deal he was trying to convince someone of. Desperate for something to work, losing everything as fast as it came in. He got off the phone and he screamed for me to get the fuck downstairs and in the car. He needed me to drive him to the train. I was getting dressed as fast as possible. The dogs were out and I ran downstairs. I heard him yelling and losing it on them to get down the hill and in the house. 3 of them ran in, and Bella stood back on the rock wall. She was frightened. I saw her face, and I said, "Stop yelling, stop, I'll get her." He told me to go fuck myself and lunged forward, and grabbing Bella by the collar, he pulled her off the wall towards him, and he began kicking her, screaming, "You fucking bitch, this should be you. I'll fucking kill you." I jumped on him, and I tried to stop him, and I was shoved away. Poor Bella stayed by his side. The whole scene was like a giant fire, untamed and imploding, enveloping all 3 of us. I don't know how long the struggle went on, but I just remember carrying Bella to the back of the car and driving him to the train in a trance. He got out, and I drove home in a flood of tears and prayers, and Bella and I sat in the driveway for a good hour. I promised Bella that day that I would never let anything ever happen to her again, and that promise I will keep.
53 years ago this coming summer, I was a 13-year-old boy attending a summer school with my older brother. We both had been accepted to prep school for enrollment that coming fall, with a condition we attend summer school to improve our writing and reading skills. The classes were small, maybe 6 to 8 students per section. This provided for a lot of one-on-one time between teacher and student as needed. In my reading class, our teacher would have us place our desks in a semicircle facing him at the front of the room. The desks were the old-fashioned kind. They were open on the left so you could slide into your seat with the armrest on the right that attached to the desktop in front. During class time, our teacher would bring his chair in front of one student at a time and go over their assignment. After a while, whenever he would sit in front of me, he would pull his chair in very close. He would essentially have both his legs on either side of mine, which enabled him to slide his hand onto my lap, and eventually he started to caress me. This is when everything starts to get a little crazy for me. Here I am, a young, naive kid who has very little knowledge of the sexual ways of the world, other than the experimenting with myself that I was assuming all the other guys were doing. Now I have an older man who is respected in the teaching community, rubbing my crotch, albeit very discreetly so as not to alert the other boys as to what was going on. This went on for a couple of classes until the day he had me stay after class to review an assignment. As soon as everyone had exited the room, he locked the door and had me stand in a small alcove in the corner of the room. He then unzipped my pants, put his hand on my penis, and started to caress it. All the while telling me this was our little secret. And didn't I think what he was doing feel good? About a minute later, another teacher came by, knocked on the door, asked him to come in, and this brought an abrupt end to that session. However, he had broken the ice, and unbeknownst to me, things were only going to escalate from there. Now, there was a small bathroom that adjoined the classroom that soon became our private room to go over assignments. Now, this was necessary, according to him, because the other boys were disrupting the class. As soon as he and I were in the bathroom, he would lock the door, unzip my pants, and perform manual and then oral sex with me until I ejaculated. Now, you have to understand something. Whenever he asked me if what he was doing felt good, I would have to honestly reply, yes, because it did. He wasn't hurting me physically, and I really wasn't sure how I was supposed to react. He didn't have me do anything for him, nor did anything happen outside the classroom at that time. Now, this little charade continued weekly till summer school ended, when I thought I wouldn't see him again, and that would be it. Or so I thought. Now, a week before school started, he contacted my parents and arranged to have me go to his house on a Saturday morning to go over the 2 book reports I had to write for my new prep school. Once there, we went to the attic where he had a small office set up. After reviewing the reports, which, by the way, he had completely rewritten, he performed one final act of oral sex on me. The hard part for me was not knowing how to tell anyone what was going on. I'm pretty sure I knew something wasn't right, and there was a level of embarrassment that was at play, always thinking my friends would be making fun of me. I didn't say anything to my parents because I didn't know how to. They never had that good touch, bad touch talk with us. Dad simply gave us a book titled For Boys Only, and I guess we were supposed to figure it out for ourselves. So here I was, a 13-year-old kid being sexually molested by an authority-type figure, and I was keeping it all bottled up inside. And keeping it bottled up I did. Not until I married for a second time when I was 32 years old did I share the burden I have been carrying for all those years. Since then, I have told my story to only 7 other people. And now, after today, it's totally out in the open. So my message is, if you can't share a situation like this with your parents, seek out an adult you trust and share it with them. My point is, what happened to me was wrong.
My name is Peter, and I'm here to invite you to hear some more unedited voices of the Upper Valley. There's a film that's being shown in the lobby continuously all through the evening. I'd like to invite you at intermission and after the show to take a look. The name of the film is Undue Influence, and these are stories expressed in theater and in dance by Dartmouth undergraduates about their experiences with sexual assault on a college campus. Did you know that if you are a woman between the ages of 18 and 22, one of the most dangerous places you can be is a college campus? I didn't know that either. Did you know that in the next academic year, in fact in every academic year, 100 to 125 co-eds at Dartmouth College will be the victims of either an attempted sexual assault or an assault? I didn't either. It was in 2010, and I was teaching a class on Shakespeare's The Tempest. And I have, in my class, 6 of my favorite students and 6 of the most courageous women I've ever met. And we were talking about themes in The Tempest. And these were all aspiring young directors. And I said to them, choose the most important theme in this play. And as you might expect from a group of Dartmouth undergraduates, their answers were very articulate, very concise, very powerful, and all of them talked about power in one way or another. And I, as a good theater teacher, said, well, you're all talking in the abstract about power. If you're going to create a work of art, I need to know what power means to you personally. And at that moment, I looked across the room, and one of the students was starting to cry. And I said, Katie, what's the matter? Did I say something? What's wrong? And she said, well, I can tell you what it feels like to be powerless. And I said, go ahead. And she said, being a woman at Dartmouth College, that's what it means to be powerless. And my jaw dropped. I had no idea. I said, what are you talking about? And instantly, all 6 of these women, there were no men in the class, just me, all 6 of the women put their books down and began talking about their fears, their anxieties, their sense of powerlessness. Every time they walk out of their dorm room, every time they go to a party, I thought, I'm a Dartmouth graduate, class of 75. I thought, this can't possibly be true. This isn't the Dartmouth I knew. I was angry. I was frustrated. I went to other female students that I had, and I called them into my office, and I said, can I ask you a question? Is this really true? And a couple of them chuckled and laughed at me, and they said, oh, Professor, we can't believe you're asking us this question. I never accept a drink, for example, at a party that's not in a sealed container. And I said, why? And they said, because we're afraid of being drugged. So this was all news to me that made me so angry, and let me hang on to that word for a moment, that I went to my creative partner, Ford Evans, who is a choreographer at the college, and I said, what can we do about this? How can we express this secret, this deep, dark secret? And he went to the members of the student members of the Dartmouth Dance Ensemble and said, would you be willing and interested in taking on the topic of sexual assault on college campuses as our next creative piece? And they said yes to a person. No one disagreed. And after a year of research, Undue Influence opened at the Hopkins Center in 2011. It went on to a second incarnation in 2012. I wish I was a writer because I could write a book on all the stories and the interactions, particularly with the college administration, about trying to bring these unedited voices out. But the good news is that as a result of that, a few people got together after Undue Influence and of like mind, and we said we've got to keep this going. And a group called Dartmouth Change was formed that began with 5 members, and we now have over 500 members who are dedicated to seeing 0 sexual assaults on campus. So again, I'd like to invite you to view the video. Go to YouTube and type in Undue Influence and you can see it. Or please come to Dartmouth Change and join us, and you can also see the video there as well. I just want to end by saying one more thing. I mentioned anger. I was right before the premiere of the show, I was speaking at a fraternity, and somebody, one of the students asked a question and said, what was this like to work on? How do you feel now that it's ready to open? And I hadn't thought about this. And I said, well, I'll tell you how I feel. And I thought about it. I am angry. I'm angry because we, grown-ups, the adults, the faculty, the administration, we can do better. Every woman has a right, every student has a right to receive an education without the fear of sexual violence or sexual assault. And we can do better. And just want to finish with this quote from a man who certainly doesn't need me to speak for him, President Joe Biden. You have to understand a very simple rule. No means no. No means no if she's drunk or sober. No means no if she's in a dorm or on the street. No means no even if she said yes first and changed her mind. No means no, no matter what. Assault is assault, rape is rape is rape, and it is a crime.
Amen.
I forgive you because I have to move on from this place. I forgive you for the petty shit you did, like when I had to stay. In that place of hopeless fear you built for me to live, I forgive you for taking away my voice and my will to live. I forgive you for treating me that way, even though you said you loved me. I forgive you for putting your faults on me while you broke me down. I forgive you for all the lies you told, and now I'm letting go of that fear you made me feel while you were around. I forgive you because I'm ready to leave this place of shame. I have walked away from your hurt and sorrow, and I'm never walking back. So don't tell me that you love me, or even that you have changed. I have heard all those lies you tell, and I have dealt with all the pain. I have changed those feelings that you left me with, which were broken and ashamed. I forgive you because I have to, because I have chosen to change. We are Unedited Voices.
Hello, my name is Gina Capicella, and I am the artistic director and choreographer for the Rock Salam Dance Theater. I teach Middle Eastern dance, Italian dance, and Indian dance. This is a message about healing. And I should tell you, before becoming a dance teacher, I was in human services for a very long time. I worked at Headrest, I worked at Child and Family Services, I was a licensed substance abuse counselor, and I'm a master's level social worker. And now I work in prevention in a different capacity. I work with women and movement, and it's lovely. I always say it's the same work with different clothes. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what you're going to see and why it's relevant to domestic violence. Dating back to the Dionysian era, Italian women have used the dances of the Tarantella family to heal themselves. Tarantella, or the ancient dance of the spider bite, was used by women to take time out and shamanistically heal from the forces of oppression that led to hard work, imbalanced relationships, and difficult lives. The next piece in the show is a dance from the Tarantella family called Tamoriata. And that's named after the drum. The drum is called the tamora, and we have percussion aptly in the show tonight. In modern Italy, Tamoriata is associated with the Feste della Madonna, which means the holidays that honor the divine feminine through the Christian Virgin Mary. The dance is done in the church courtyard, and it is part of the worship of the Virgin Mary. This is a very sensual and earthy dance where everyone makes eye contact. Women make eye contact with women. Men make eye contact with men. Men and women make eye contact very powerfully with each other. Growing up with a mother who was 100% Italian, I learned that the body was something to be adorned, to be loved, and the face was something to be celebrated. The idea of the body as good and beauty as good was a part of the family story and a part of our Italian American heritage. In Italy, touch between and within genders, because I also did live there for a while, the gaze and physical proximity are normalized in a way that would feel foreign to Americans. In my mind, this leads to greater possibility for people to fearlessly inhabit their bodies and has something to teach all of us. Of course, where there is domestic violence, there is physical fear. Fear and the potential for physical harm causes people to draw back, to withdraw from their bodies. Where there is physical violence, a disconnect between the body and spirit often must occur in order for the spirit to remain safe. We are well acquainted with the wonderful services like WISE that are required to heal the emotions and the psyche of people who have survived domestic violence. But less clear, perhaps, are the non-mental health-based interventions that help to reunite the body with the spirit. Dance, and specifically the Tarantella family of dances, provide a pathway for women to express their divinity through their bodies. It heals the disconnect between the physical and the spiritual, which is not just a problem resulting from domestic violence, but a problem in our society in general. Italian dance, and in this case Tamoriata, encourages sensual, playful, intense, and spirited embodiment, while also connecting with a dance partner. In order to do it right, you have to be present in your body, your emotions, and your power. When I was in Italy this summer, I witnessed the sensuality and connectedness not just of young women, but also of old women. I saw women young and old connecting with themselves and with partners in a very embodied way, honoring and embracing the body as a vehicle for joy at any age begins to heal the spirit and body split. Tamoriata embraces sensuality while being a vehicle for worship of the divine feminine, giving space to people of all genders and ages. This allows for a very deep healing, the reuniting of the spirit with the body, good for survivors, good for non-survivors, and good for the planet.
worst part of the whole thing is that the police didn't believe me. After working with them for over 8 months, looking at mugshots, giving them statements, being honest, and trusting them, they accused me of making the whole thing up, of choking myself, of punching myself in the face, of getting semen and blood from the hospital where my boyfriend worked, of raping myself. That there was not someone who attacked me in the middle of the night while I was asleep. That there was not someone who waited in the closet in my apartment. That there was not someone who ate one of my bananas while he waited. That there was not someone who used my kitchen knife as a weapon. That there was not someone who punched me repeatedly in the face, choked me, stuffed a pair of my underwear in my mouth, tied my hands behind my back with my own nightgown, told me not to scream or he would kill me. That there was not a man who pulled me down on the bed, forced me to give him a hand job, raped me with his mouth, squeezed my breasts, turned me over on my stomach, getting ready to rape me from behind. That I did not reach for the knife. That I did not chase him out of the bedroom with the knife. That I did not stab him repeatedly in the back. That the knife did not break. That he did not come after me and strangle me. That I was not able to fight him off. That I did not plead with him to leave. That he did not leave by the screen door. That there was not his blood all over the carpet and blinds. That I did not run out of the apartment and bang on all the doors in the building. That the 3 guys in the apartment did not see me shaking and beaten up. That they did not call the police. That the police did not drive me to the hospital. That I did not have a rape kit done. That semen and blood and evidence were not collected. No. None of that happened. None of that existed. According to the 2 women detectives, I wanted to get out of the lease of my apartment. I wanted to break up with my boyfriend. That was why I made it all up. They told me there was no knife. They had proof that I was a liar because after 4 hours of interrogation, I failed the lie detector test. I failed to identify anyone in the mugshots. I was the one to blame. To not be believed. That is the worst of all.
I sat in my truck pondering the lady that wanted to talk all those years ago. I did not know what to say at the time and did not linger to give her the space to expand. Today I'm on the board of the bank. Every time I take the steps, I remember the shrouds of her life and how hidden her world was even for the people on her property. When I was a teenage boy, I worked on a nearby dairy farm, assisting the farmer with his chores. It was good, honest work, and I enjoyed the opportunity to learn, grow strong, earn, and I took pride in my accomplishments. I think back at the farmer, the large man with a determined purpose to his demeanor. He did things routinely and he did them well. He was the leader and he kept at things until they were completed in good order. His wife would appear in the late afternoon with something to drink, a thermos for us in the cold weather, iced tea or lemonade in summer. She was quietly kind and often complimentary. I never noticed much about their relationship. In the heat of the summer, the farmer's muscles would be taut as he slung bales of hay, assisted a cow at birth, or worked the machinery. I worked hard beside him, keeping up as best I could. I was glad for the job, and he was glad for the help. Several years after I left, I heard that the lady and the farmer had divorced. One summer's day, I had been in the bank, and she had greeted me, and I expressed sorrow for the loss of her marriage. She quietly exclaimed while her eyes searched mine, That was the most abusive marriage ever. The next few moments were exceedingly awkward. Neither of us spoke. She seemed waiting for me to speak. It was nice to see you. Take care, I drifted from my lips as I hurried down the stairs. Today, as the heat steams off the hood of my truck, I wonder at the strength he must have exerted over her for all those years. Had he mentally, physically, and sexually assaulted her all that time? The questions were haunting, for I was there every day, and I had no idea things were amiss. In a world where marriage is meant to be a season of trust, had he squandered it to satisfy his own appetite and need to control another? She had chosen to get out. Was it the first true peace she'd known in decades? Today, as a man who is aware of such atrocities in our world, I could speak to her and give her time to expand. These bank steps remain the steps of silence and courage, for I know others suffer such treatment still today. One incident or a lifetime in pain and fearful silence. Today, our world calls out for us to trust, yet it depends on all of us. The system, the police, the hospital, the lawyers, the judges, the laws. I call on you to trust what another says in fear. Stand by them, for theirs is a profound truth, often silent, for fear of retribution.
Flowers fading on the wall. Clock is standing 10 feet tall. He is fighting, she is crying on the floor. There's no hero here anymore. Neighbors hear them down the hall. Screams and crying, please no more. He is fighting, she is crawling towards the door. He screams her name and calls her forth. As he calmly shuts the door. Flowers fading on the wall. Clock is standing 10 feet tall. Lights are flashing all around. And their bodies on the ground.
I know him. I'm just going to say it. It was rape.
You told me that we'd make love when I came home.
The fact that I called you after, asking if the job offer in your fancy company that you dangled in front of me was still on the table, doesn't mean it wasn't rape.
I know him, and you know him.
The fact that I had way too much to drink, a fabulous dinner in a storybook cafe, perched over the water, and that you paid, you know I never could have, doesn't mean it wasn't rape.
I know him, and you know him. He walks our halls and drives on your street, while I stand alone with this fiery secret smoldering.
And you're asleep. The yelling woke me, startled in my slumber. Why was my husband yelling? Lord, it's after midnight. You told me you'd wait up and now you're asleep. I work all day and you are asleep.
The fact that I said no and you pretended to think that I didn't mean it, even though I was almost passed out, I did say no. You even acknowledged it. Your sickening moans and what I remember you said disgusts me.
Discoloring, dooming.
Come to the bathroom with me. Oh, Lord, if I don't go, the yelling will surely wake the kids. I fear this night already.
The fact that I didn't go to the police or to the hospital.
Your pretty pictures of grinning cookies and dancing breadsticks. Kumbaya. I know him, and so do you.
The fact that I didn't admit to myself right away that it wasn't rape doesn't mean it wasn't rape.
He leads angrily. Let's go. I hope if I am quiet, this will all just go away.
I hate when you ask me, are you sure it really happened? Let me check in with my nightmares and get back to you. Would that make it more real? Would you feel better? Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. I know him, and you do too.
The fact that I went on with my life.
I get into bed and huddle in the fetal position, far to my side, wondering what is next.
The fact that I've been able to have relationships, learn to love myself, and appreciate my body only means that I, like other survivors, are strong and resilient. It doesn't mean it wasn't rape.
I hate that you turn to stone, fear, when I say it. Rape. It's not an illness I'm breathing in your face. It's a word with a definition, and it happened here in your world and mine.
Have I died? I am no more than 3 inches long and am not visible, I don't think. I am on the ceiling, my back flattened tight to the ceiling. I am looking down at this woman curled up, softly crying in her nightshirt. The man is yelling that he has to have her. He has to. He pulls the covers off, spreads her legs, and viciously starts pumping. What are you crying for, bitch? Tears openly flow, wondering how inhumane a man can be, how torn she will be. What will happen if the children waken? How did anyone ever become so vicious?
And I hate it when you say, it could be worse. Be thankful. At least you're not dying. I already died.
It was rape.
Power and will forces sucked through his straw of entitlement. I'm trying to live again.
Her life was never supposed to look like this. Her tears soak through the pillowcase.
It was rape.
There's nothing worse than this. Now, dead? At least it's not empty, not blind, not isolated. It's not waiting around the corner with memories that talk to the inside of my head.
I push the nightshirt down and ease myself out of bed to not wake the murderer of my soul.
It was rape.
My head, a rusty old tank junkyard truck that only starts on a good day. My vision dimmed 5 shades darker. I don't trust you.
We know him, and he knows us.
I hate that you have limits, but I can live without your help if you must live within your fear. Help means that you believe me, that you share my anger. Please take some away. It makes me feel poisonous, shameful.
I tiptoe to the bathroom, cleanse myself, wipe away blood from a cut that stings. Head in my hands, I sob softly for the life I wished I did not live.
Stand with me. Speak out loud. Don't make me be silent. He knows me, and I know you.
I know him.
I know him,
I know him.
and you do too.
There's a sad blue river flowing by. It's filled with all the tears I cry. It keeps on flowing around the bend. Now it seems this river has no end. It runs from love, it runs from me, searching for an ocean, longing to be free. It runs from love, it runs from me. River of emotion, set my spirit free. It started when a teardrop left my eye. One thought of you and a lonely sigh. Memories of a love too hard to hold. Now my river of tears is running cold. It runs from love, it runs from me, searching for an ocean, longing to be free. It runs from love, it runs from me. River of emotion, set my spirit free. I'm gonna grab me a log, a leaf or a boat. I'm gonna hold on tight to anything that'll float. I'm gonna take back the tears, I'm gonna take back the pain, and let it all go like a warm, gentle rain. It'll flow from love, it'll flow from me. River of emotion, set my spirit free. It'll flow from love, it'll flow from me. River of emotion, set my spirit free.
I'm your average father, coaching teams and attending a lot of recitals. I've experienced life's highs, the birth of my children, owning a home, wonderful family vacations, most recently becoming a proud grandparent. I've also experienced life's lows. I'm a 12-year cancer survivor. Nothing prepared me for what events my family were thrust into November 10th, 2010. I arrived home after work and was met by my wife. With tears in her eyes, she said she had found an email my 14-year-old daughter had written to a friend, describing how she'd been sexually molested for years by her grandfather. When my wife confronted our daughter, she began to cry, saying she didn't want to talk about it. My heart was broken. My little girl had been molested by her own grandfather, not some stranger lurking in the dark, but by a man whom we all trusted. I could only tell her that I believed her and that I loved her and that it wasn't her fault. Who was that monster that assaulted our daughter, his own granddaughter? He's 78 years old, the father of 5 children, and the patriarch of a large extended Italian family. Faithfully attended church, was the pillar of his community, was known by everybody in town. He was the ultimate father, high moral ethics, a hard worker, basically the greatest man alive. The reality, he was a pedophile, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I had been blindsided. I had to do something. I took my handgun and I got in my car. I knew I needed to talk to my son first. So I arrived at his apartment in tears and told him what I had just found out. I needed to know if that monster had ever touched him or sexually molested him. He said no. I needed him to know that I loved him and that I was so proud of him. He pleaded with me not to go, saying that my daughter needed me. He needed me. Killing her molester would not do anything but cause more damage. He told me I needed to be strong, like the man I had taught him to be. Those words were so strong and so powerful. He held me and told me we were in this together. No one slept that night. How would my daughter be affected? Would she ever heal? How do we get her help? Where do you get her help? Where do you start? I found an emergency number and called it. Fortunately, I was able to meet with a counselor at 9 o'clock that next morning. I told him what I just found out, and he immediately told me that when a report of a minor has been sexually assaulted, we must tell the police. He then allowed me to spill my guts, to cry, to scream, to become angry, become depressed, describe how I thought that bastard should die. He said we need to focus on my daughter and my wife. I know I'd been heard. I then called my friend, who was a local police officer, and blurted out my daughter had been molested. He knew my daughter and treated her like his own daughter. We met, and I was surprised by his control and his methodical approach. I also needed to know if this monster had molested any of his other grandchildren. Unfortunately, the granddaughter, 5 years older than my daughter, now said that she had been molested for many years. In March 2011, our case was brought before the grand jury in Grafton County. He was indicted on 3 felonies of felonious aggravated sexual assault and 1 misdemeanor for assault. During the next months, he and his attorney offered a plea bargain, asking that he receive 1 year in the county jail and that he be required to get some help. For this, he would plead guilty to only a misdemeanor. My daughter refused. In March 2012, we went to trial. And on the first day of that trial, I entered that dark, foreboding courtroom. I could see the monster, surrounded by the family members that I had known for 20 years. The next day, when my daughter went to testify, I came apart. I had to bring her to the courtroom. I felt like I was offering up my daughter to the monster once again. After 3 days of trial, the jury was given the case, and that afternoon they returned with a verdict. When the court bailiff finally read the first charge of felonious aggravated sexual assault, the verdict was unanimous: guilty. I was overcome with a feeling of relief. Bail was rescinded, the monster was handcuffed and taken off to jail. We had won. I told my daughter how proud I was of her. She's my hero. She faced this demon. He received 7.5 to 15 years in the Concord State Prison, and that's where he sits now. How did this affect my daughter? She showed me an essay that she wrote, and this is a portion of it.
There I was, sitting in the courtroom full of strangers, telling them my darkest secret, a nightmare come true. I was completely numb. I was saying things that I had never told to anyone, and the person that had done these unspeakable things to me was sitting across the room. What gave me the strength to talk that day was my brother. He sat by himself in support of me. In that room full of people who opposed or didn't believe me, he was my hope. He was the one positive in a room full of negativity. He sat and listened and never looked away from me, no matter how painful it was for him. His eyes told me that I was loved and that our family would make it through. He urged me to continue and told me that I was strong enough to break free from the burden of the secret life I had lived for too long. After an hour of interrogation, they released me from the hell that was the courtroom, and I was finally free. I had told the world my story, and I was no longer fettered by the pain of my past and all of its lies. Today, I am proud to say that the man I called my grandfather is sitting in jail serving the maximum sentence for what he did to me. The family members that supported me have grown closer than ever before and are my true family. Everyone involved in this period of my life has been forever changed. For me, this experience made all the difference. I'm standing here today unafraid to tell my story. Looking back, I realize how far I've come from the shy girl I used to be to the confident and outgoing young woman that I am today. I have learned the meaning of courage and strength and how to stand up for myself. Now, I'm able to become the woman that I've always wanted to be.
I am more than the little girl whose uncle stole her innocence 50 years ago when she learned to keep the secret. I am more than the young woman who was brutally raped at gunpoint by her boyfriend during a time when no domestic violence laws existed. I am more than a young woman who was inappropriately touched and kissed by a pastor she trusted to help her. I am more than the wife nearly choked to death by her husband in front of her 5-year-old daughter. I am more than a teacher assaulted at work by the grandfather of one of her students. I am more than a grandmother who was assaulted in her home by an unknown assailant. I am so much more than a victim of abuse. I am no longer a scared little child who felt she wasn't worth being loved. I am no longer a doormat for men to stomp all over and use and abuse at their will. I am no longer the woman that people in power made feel ashamed when they didn't believe her. I am a determined woman who will live a life without the fear of being abused. I am a courageous woman who will speak up when there is injustice. I am a feisty nana who will now be able to enjoy time with her grandson. I am empowered and free to become the woman that God intended me to be. I am more than I ever dreamed that I could be, for the secrets hidden in that box deep inside me have been set free. I am so much more.
I am so much more. I am so much more. I am so much more. I am so much more. So much more.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices true. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices true. This is the sound of voices true. This is Sing